Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to have a look at marketing. So if you've just come from watching the product life cycle video, you're probably going to see a couple of little similarities as well. The next couple of like presentations and videos and theories do have a bit of overlap with business studies. So if you've studied business studies at GCSE or you're doing it currently at A-level BTEC, you will see quite a few different similarities. It's most likely going to appear on your second paper, your hour-and-a-half long paper. So a couple of things you need to know. One is to understand what areas of research companies do to identify their target market's needs, what the whole term about corporate identity refers to, what sort of things you'll find on packaging, different types of advertising and promotion, and then the sort of maths that kind of goes along with this topic is how to calculate profit. So I'll run through that with you as well. So to begin with, target market. Hopefully that's not a term brand new to you. So if you've already started your coursework, you will already have identified a target market for the thing that you are producing. Essentially what it is about who are you aiming your thing at. So the characteristics of a potential customer matter greatly. So there's a few different things that companies may need to consider. That might be to do with like age, gender, disposable income, which is different to your normal income, bear in mind. So disposable income is income you have after you've paid your bills, your mortgage, your rent, whatever it is. How much quote unquote spare money do you have at the end of it? Residential location, which does play quite a big part in it. So there are different interests depending on where in the country you are. If you're a coastal town and in a city town, rural towns, those types of things. And then your recreational interests, your hobbies. So those are the things that companies will need to consider when they're designing a product. There are also some things that customers, consumers, us, the people that buy the stuff, will think about or like to take into consideration when we're buying things. So that might be our social or our emotional needs. That might be our family needs, so what do we actually physically need? Budget pressures. And then it might be like brand loyalty or preferences. So things like brand loyalty I've talked about before is the odds are most of you, if you've got like certain types of clothing or electronic products, the odds are you know a type of brand that you like. I like that type of t-shirt, like they always do nice designs, or those kind of trainers, or I always stick with Apple as much as it pains me. Budget pressures might be okay, so if you're going for a lower income sort of area, you're not going to be finding more high-end brands that have got a high price to it because it's just not something they can afford. So to do with your emotional needs, if you look down at the bottom here, there's basically your emotional needs are kind of separated into 9. Now there's quite a lot of overlap with some of these. So first one is security. So that's being able to feel safe in your own home with your family or your support circle. Attention, so being able to have that interaction with people. Control, so being able to feel in control of a situation. People don't like to feel like they're not in control of their own life and what they're doing. Having a sense of meaning and purpose, so actually like that's why people have jobs, go to school, go to colleges, do that sort of thing. Apart from the fact you have to. If you literally, trust me, if you were to just sit at home and do Netflix or Xbox all day, every day, eventually you would lose the will to live. You need to have that sense of purpose and belonging. Privacy, so you need to, obviously, you want the attention of other people, but you also want to feel that you can have your own privacy in your own little bubble. And the opposite side of that being the community one. The next one is that you want to feel part of a bigger thing as well. Intimacy, so that isn't necessarily just like with a partner, a wife, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever. It can be just feeling like pets, kids, whatever it may be. A sense of status in work. There's a reason why people like moving up the ladder in work. They like getting that sense of status of, oh, I'm a head of department, or I'm in charge of this many people, or I do this thing now. And that, again, that kind of goes along with a sense of achievement as well, like you've achieved something. So there is quite a few of those overlap in their own sort of ways, but those are sort of what's known as like the 9 emotional needs that we as human beings have. And some people have some, like a higher emphasis on some than others. So, corporate identity. This literally all comes down to branding. Okay, companies are incredibly protective of their corporate identity, their trademark, it's who they are. And within that, there are a couple of things that might consider. Things like the specific colours. Alright, now what you can't do is say like, right, I'm McDonald's and I'm taking the colour yellow, that's my yellow. What they'll do is they'll have specific shades. A very, very common one is Cadbury's Purple. Now, when you eventually, if you ever do get married, you'll notice that a lot of like wedding colours tend to be like, they call it Cadbury's Purple because it's their purple. Logos, which pretty much probably like one of the most important things. That's the symbol that represents their brand. Certain fonts that you may have, so the most famous one being things like Coca-Cola, and then along with their brand name. Those are the bits within a company's brand that creates their corporate identity of who they are. So they are very, very protective of it, and it's what stands them out from rival companies. And if there are things that are too similar, that can result in quite a few like court cases and that sort of thing. So from 2020, because I couldn't find a more recent one, these are what we consider like the most valuable sort of brands. A couple of these I have not heard of, 2 of them I've not heard of, but obviously the main ones being like Amazon and Google, Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, Facebook, although we call it Meta now, I'm assuming, and there's a couple of American ones, like Walmart is an American one, and I'm guessing Chinese ones. So those are what I consider like the most valuable brands. And if you think about it, is you see their logos, you see their brand name, you think about them automatically, you know what they're about, you know what they do. So, excuse me, companies can develop and change their brand throughout the years. You're not stuck. You don't come up with your logo and your brand name on day one and then you're stuck with it for life. You can change it, and we'll show a couple of examples of rebrands that have gone really, really well. Some companies also change their brand seasonally. The most common one that does that is Coca-Cola. And the most common way with that is at Christmas. And they, not so much recently, but I suppose back in the day, again, making me feel like a really old man, is that there used to be the saying, like, you wouldn't think it was Christmas until you saw the Coca-Cola Christmas advert, where you'd have, like, the holidays are coming, song going on, you'd have the truck, you see in the top right, the Christmas truck with Coca-Cola branding with Father Christmas on it. There are a couple of other companies that like change their branding. You think like the John Lewis advert and that type of thing, where they have a really, really big tie into Christmas. So it's actually quite a clever thing. Is Coca-Cola pretty much attach themselves to Christmas, so it's just like a kind of free branding almost. One thing that's interesting, there was always these rumours that Coca-Cola are the ones that rebranded like Father Christmas. That is not true, because I thought that before I did the research for this as well. They use him a lot in their branding because Father Christmas is not a protected image. Their version of Father Christmas is a protected image. If you did like a particular kind of sketch or an image of how he looks, that's your protected image, but you can't just copyright Santa Claus. That's not a thing. It doesn't belong to anyone in particular. But now, yeah, the rumours were that he used to be green, which he did used to be, sorry. But they aren't responsible for that. And another really clever one that they did as well was just having your own names on different bottles, and people would go out and try and find a Coca-Cola bottle with their name on it, which, as dumb as that sounds, worked really, really well. So a couple of other like really strong rebrands is McDonald's, so you can sort of see where they've gone throughout the different stages of their logos. And then, as much as it pains me, I've been too nice to Apple in this video, it's killing me inside, is you can see how the logo has changed throughout the time to where we're pretty much at the same one we're right now from 2017. Hopefully you can't hear lots of banging. There is engineers in the workshop behind me. I'm hoping my microphone isn't picking it up. Okay, so packaging. Again, is used as part of that corporate identity. You see that packaging, you associate that packaging with that design. Some people incorporate it a lot more, so things like Pringles, you notice like that Pringles tube. A few other crisp packet companies have tried to use that sort of thing. I think Doritos have tried to do like a stacking Dorito kind of thing, but like you see that, you think Pringles. And then obviously you put your colours and your brand identity on there as well. But there's also certain key information you need to have on there. Now we've covered that a little bit in things like packaging products for like plastics and that sort of thing. So you have to have obviously like, if it's like a plastic, what sort of plastic is it? Recycling logos. If it's a food item, it might be like allergy information. So yes, it's used as part of branding, but there's also some really, really key information you'll need to have on there. Typically you'll have things like contact information if it's like complaints, allergies as we said. There's a whole range of different things that you might find on there. FFC as well, which we've talked about in Tim as well, Forest Stewardship Council. If it's a paper-based product, you need to show it's come from an ethically sourced area. So, global marketing. In this day and age, COVID aside, is we live very much in an international market. Companies very rarely, if they're going to succeed, just sell in one individual market. If you want to be truly global, you have to go around the globe, hence the term global. So companies will change their branding and their products slightly depending on what sort of culture and country they're in. McDonald's do a massively big job in this, in that if you see the sort of different kind of products you'll find in different countries with McDonald's, So if you've ever gone on holiday abroad and then you go, oh, there's a McDonald's, and you go there and they've got a different menu. So, and then obviously sometimes in England we get like the American menu comes over, so you can get like all different like burgers that typically they don't sell in England because they sell them in America. It may be because there's sort of like cultural beliefs. There may be sort of like dietary needs, so like halal meat or that sort of thing, or they have more of a rice-based diet compared to like potato-based. So there's loads and loads of different things that you may try and alter. You also may think, of course, take like America versus England. And not to stereotype, but typically like sizes will be a lot different in America to England because we don't typically have like 5XL as frequently as something like America does, that type of thing. And we know the designs and tastes are slightly different. Same with like Eastern European taste is a lot more different from like mainland Europe to different to like Asia. So companies will just tweak. It's still the same product, but they'll just tweak it slightly to make it more suitable to the particular market they want to sell it in. So, advertising and promotion. We talked about in a previous video product life cycle. So when a company is introducing their product into the market, they're trying to like promote it, hype it up as much as they can do to get as much sales, because what you really want to try and do is this maturity stage here. This is where you're making your big money. This is like the peak of your sales. So you're trying to keep it there as long as possible. But before you can get there, you've got to hype up your product. Okay, so there's a few different ways of doing it. So obviously TV being like the main kind of advertising. Then you've got radios, magazines, pop-ups, billboards, posters, like bus shelters. So, social media is now such a big one with like influencers and that type of thing. And then in-store promotions, we have like the stands at the end of the aisles or like at the actual tills themselves. There's also the idea that companies try and like go viral, particularly over like social media. Which it doesn't always work because people don't always know what is going viral. The engineers are bugging a lot. I really hope you can't hear that, but it's a little bit irritating. So yeah, the whole idea of trying to go viral is you kind of basically want to make like a meme sort of advert that people just share because it's funny or something like that. Which sometimes it works really, really well, and sometimes it just falls flat on its backside. Social media is also an interesting one. If you particularly you've got like quote unquote like influencers, like on Instagram, you also might have like, say for example, gamers that are like streaming on YouTube or Twitch. What companies might do rather than advertising a game on TV, if someone's got say 500,000 viewers on Twitch or YouTube, they'll get that. Okay, here's a big bag of money. Can you play this game for an hour and talk about how great it is to your viewers? And that's just another kind of promotion that sort of didn't exist. Maybe even like Twitch, maybe like 5 years ago, maybe. It was kind of maybe around that sort of time. So, then you've got advertising and sport, and because I haven't talked about it for a while, we're going to talk about F1, because why wouldn't we? So this can be either like as a whole, an individual, as a whole team. Obviously, you got people like Cristiano Ronaldo, like Conor McGregor, like the really big famous sports stars that got like their own individual sponsorships, where they might wear a t-shirt with certain brand names on there. The most common, or the most expensive, piece of airtime on TV for sport is actually the Super Bowl. So, if you think like a 30-second advert in 2018 cost £3.8 million to air during half-time of the Super Bowl, which is just absolutely insane. But if you think about how many people watch the Super Bowl, actually probably worth it. So take F1, and there's a couple of slides on that because why not? So Ferrari, as much as it pains me, very iconic, not my favourite team, but you think of F1, you think of Ferrari red. So drivers, okay, so we've got Charles Leclerc on the left, who is Monegascan from Monaco, and Sebastian Vettel, who is no longer a Ferrari driver, but is German. So what you will find, apart from Ferrari having like its go-to sponsors like Shell and UPS and Ray-Ban have always been on there, each of those individual drivers will then have their own company, like country sponsors. So Sebastian Vettel will have some German sponsors on his things, and Charles Leclerc will have some Monegascan, or probably French as well, sponsors on there as well. And you'll see the reason why I choose F1, apart from because that's just fun to talk about, is they're very famous for just anytime there's space anywhere, whack a sponsor on there. So just show you a couple more examples. So we've gone through Ferrari. Mercedes, obviously most famous with like Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, now George Russell. So some of these are specific to individuals. So Monster are pretty much the main sponsor for Lewis Hamilton. You got like Bose that do like headphones. Tommy Hilfiger do like their jumpers and t-shirts and that sort of thing as well. So if you think about, I'll show you the next slide as well. You got like Red Bull. This is a little bit older because it's Aston Martin. Obviously they were Honda and then now they're going to be Red Bull powertrain, so it's not even Honda anymore. But I mean, if you look about the quality of the adverts they got on there as well, they're all high quality. Like Tag Heuer is like a very, very expensive brand. Same with obviously Aston Martin before they moved to become their own team. So the brands we're looking at is incredibly expensive. McLaren's an interesting one because it's well, Bruce McLaren was Australian, I think. Oh my god, I shouldn't have mentioned this because then if I'm wrong, I look like an idiot. I'm pretty sure Bruce McLaren was Australian, possibly, but possibly English. They very famously had like famous English people, so like Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton raced for them. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton won the title with McLaren, but they're now run by Zach Brown, who is an American. So they've actually got now quite a few American sponsors, like Coca-Cola and like Husky. So they're very, very specific to America as well. Oh, and the Hilton as well. So just to show you, like, not all parts of sponsorship are equal. So depending on where you want your like logo to be, depends on how much it's going to cost. Essentially, it's the biggest amount of space, and where it's most likely going to get seen on TV is where the most expensive will be. That tends to be how it works. Really, what you want to be like a title sponsor right in the middle there on the side pods. That's like the main one, which I think if you're McLaren, it's Petronas, and then Ferrari have kind of gone crazy and got loads of them, even though they were rubbish a few years ago. Okay. And then just to show you, again, with the social media and influencers, so obviously Cristiano Ronaldo, they think like 153 million followers. That's why he'll have paid sponsorships, because sometimes, I mean, if you say, Ronaldo, just hold these boots up and say they're really good football boots, the amount of people that will just buy those football boots is insane. And then you also have like the Kardashians, as much as it pains me, that sell out their makeup because apparently they're famous and it's important. Okay, so using them as a form of advertising rather than paying for TV or radio adverts is massive. So we talked about going viral a little bit, so in fact we've pretty much done that. Well, the whole idea, we know what viral is you want to make something almost memey and funny, so you people will share it with your friends, and next thing you know it's gone quite like viral, everyone's seen it, and then you see it, oh yeah, it looks like quite cool, I'll go and buy that thing. Okay, so the last thing I want to go over is the maths attached to this, is how to sort of calculate costing and profit in relation to advertising and making an actual product itself. So costs typically are broken down into a couple of different factors. One, you've got direct costs. So that's directly associated with making a product. So like labour, I want to pay someone to make something, materials, consumable products like consumables that I've used for it, the factory overheads, so like having the tools, the machinery, having the electricity on there, paying security, that type of thing. You've then got indirect costs, which is like running the business as a whole, so like admin, maintenance, electricity. I talked about electricity for direct costs. I misspoke. That's indirect costs. My apologies. So calculating cost per unit, like one item, what you need to do is basically total direct materials cost, add your total labour cost, add your total manufacturing costs, okay, and then divide it by the total of the things that you make equals how much one unit costs. And obviously it depends, basically just add up all your costs, and then say you've made 100 of them, and all these cost me 50 quid to make 100 of these, and then just divide that by how many you've made, and then you end up with how much one single unit costs. Because very, very rarely do you make just one, unless you're doing like a bespoke one-off product. So just to show you a little rundown of an example, okay, is so a designer maker of furniture needs to calculate what they need to charge per chair. Note that they want to earn a gross salary of 22,000, so they want to take home 22,000 at the end of the year. So what you want to do is calculate the overall cost of the overheads, so that is like workshop rent, insurance, and so on. So in this example, we'll call it £12,500. Then you want to decide how much time was spent per week making the product. So in this example, say 40% of a typical working week. Assuming as well that they'll take holiday, so they'll take 4 weeks off a year because everyone likes to go on holiday, and then Christmas and that type of thing. So then calculate the hourly overhead costs. So 48 weeks a year, 40 hours a week, times 40%. So in total, we're going to be looking at 768 hours a year total. So divide the yearly overhead cost by the number of hours per week. So we said that overall, the annual overheads is 12,500, and we're going to work 768 hours. So divide it. So basically, it's £16.28. So that's the hourly rate. And then calculate the hourly wage. So divide the total hourly, how much he wants to make in a year, divide it by the amount of hours, is £28.65. And then calculate the total hourly rate, which is hourly wage plus your overhead costs. So take your £28.65, sorry, and then what you want to do is add 16%, add them both together, gets you £44.93. Then work out how long it takes you to make one chair. So for this example, it takes the guy 2.5 hours. So just times 2.5 hours by how much the hourly rate is, and then that will let you figure out how long and how much time and money it costs to make one item, and then add in the material cost as well, so we'll call that £15. So in total it takes a chair £127.33. So that's worth noting as well, which I'm not calculating into here, is just because that's how much it costs you, the maker, to make things. When you give it to a company that then resell it, they'll add on their extra cost, like their recommended retail price, because obviously they need to make profit as well. Okay, so last little bit is some questions on the screen. Pause the video, have a go at answering them, and then have a look through the answers in your book. So that is the end of marketing. Hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully there wasn't too much banging in the background. I will check when I'm editing it, but I'm hoping my microphone didn't pick up too badly. If you've got any questions, let me know and I will get back to you.